when you compound interest, you start earning interest on the interest. Now, what do I mean by that? Let's take a look at some of these words, and we'll come down to compounded interest, and we'll do an example. What is the principal? The principal is always the amount that you borrow or the amount you invest and after a year, invest. Let's spell that right. And after a year, your principal is going to change because you might be adding on interest, you might be adding on dollars due to interest, or yeah, that's what would happen. You'd be adding on dollars. What does compounded annually mean? That means if you were to use 1.5% like our checking or our savings account example, and it's 1.5% per year, it means that once a year you would take the amount of money that was in your account and you'd multiply it by 1.015 to find the interest. Sometimes, though, we don't calculate the interest once a year. We might calculate it semi-annually, which means we'd calculate it twice a year or every 6 months. So if our interest rate was 1.5% per year, to calculate how much we would multiply by each 6 months, you would take that 1.015. No, you wouldn't. You'd take just the 0.15, this part, and you'd multiply it, or you'd divide it by 2, because twice a year you're going to compound your interest. Quarterly is 4 times a year, and that means every 3 months. So that means that every 3 months you will multiply by 0.015 divided by 4. And actually you'll add 1 to that when you're calculating your interest or your total amount. Monthly, of course, is 12 times per year, which is once every month. Weekly is 52 times a year. And daily, of course, is 365 times a year. So if we were to write a recursive equation for loans and investments, our u sub 0, and we're always going to use u sub 0 here. This is an anniversary type problem. Nothing happens in that before the first anniversary. So we're going to enter the principal. P stands for principal, or the amount you invest, and that's going to be your u sub 0. To calculate u sub n, you'll take the year before, which is u sub n minus 1, and you'll multiply it by 1 plus the fraction made by the annual rate. And again, let's spell that correctly. By the number of times it's compounded. It's either quarterly or it's monthly. This is the frequency during the year that we will compound the interest. And you're either going to add or subtract your payment. Now, if it's a loan, you're going to subtract a payment from that total. If it's an investment, you're going to add a payment to the total. So you can circle the subtract here and write loan, and circle the add and write investment.